I'm so excited. Bryan Mirabella, you're
Ugh,
actually one of the most requested guests on my channel. Maybe you don't even
wow.
realize.
I did not know
Almost
that.
5-year fruitarian.
Yep.
Breath coach. I believe you're a breath expert.
Yep.
I've heard you say things like traumas can cause breathing problems in our bodies, and you just know so much. This is going to be such a great talk.
Mm.
I don't even know where to get started, but I want to say thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to speak with you because I'm the one who reached out to you. So
Yeah, no, this is incredible. And I feel like we have a lot in common. So I think you're 54.
yeah,
You look amazing.
54
I'm
and a half
41.
now.
Yeah, I was born in the 80s. So a lot of people smoked back then. My mom was a smoker. I was born in a house where there was a lot of smoke. I didn't see my dad too much. We have a lot of similarities with our
Mm.
childhood. I wasn't breastfed. Nothing against my mom. I love you, mom. But I just want to say we have a lot of similarities with these
Right.
things and with things growing up. And I think you say like it can be traumatic for us coming into the world that way.
Absolutely.
And that can really affect us, right?
Yeah.
So we need to work on these traumas through our
Major.
breathing and different things.
Yeah.
So we have to get into that. But first I want to start with some of the fruitarian stuff.
Okay,
So
cool.
5 years almost only fruit or only fruit, right? Pretty
No, I
much.
would say 95%.
Yeah.
And I don't like to label myself, so I consider myself that I practice a fruitarian lifestyle
I like that.
because I do have a wife who's not vegan at all.
Okay, my husband's not vegan.
And sometimes when we go out to dinner, she's got to find restaurants that have salads. And then once in a while, I'll have a cooked vegetable, but typically, no, I just eat raw fruits.
Yeah.
So
And
it makes me feel
how
best.
has that changed your life?
Wow, that's a big one because it's changed my life in so many different ways. But the way I got into the fruitarian lifestyle was from breathing, because 8 years ago I went to an acupuncturist who was a high level acupuncturist, and within the first 5 minutes, she listened to my pulse, and she said, "Guys like you have a heart attack in your 60s and die."
What?
And I was like, but I was so ego driven back then. I was like, "What? Look at me! How
Mhm.
could you say that?" And she's like, "Bryan, your kidneys are not functioning well, your heart is not functioning well, your liver's not functioning well, and you're burning up. Stick out your tongue." She's like, "Do you have trouble sleeping?" I'm like, "Yeah, I've had insomnia for 20 years." She's like, "Do you have to pee in the middle of the night?" I'm like, "Yeah, I pee like 3 times a night." She's like, I said, "I don't even get tired." I was like, "But I'm not tired." I was like, "I force myself to go to bed." She's like, "Exactly. You're supposed to get tired. You're adrenalized." And she saved my life. But I saw her for about 2.5 years, and I wasn't that consistent because I didn't know it then, and I wasn't on the breathing journey, and I wasn't on the fruit journey. So
So what were you eating then? When she was telling
I
you
was
like,
eating vegan,
yeah.
but I was cooked. So I didn't know. So I came from 42 years of being an athlete wrestler, of just shoving as much meat in my body as I could, and it destroyed my organs. I had my iris read. There's a man here in New York City. He's been an iridologist for 35 years. He's unbelievable.
I'm gonna have to have him on. Who? What's his name?
His name's Jed Schwartz. He's
So he read your eyes?
brilliant. Yeah, he read my
What was the
eyes.
result?
Well, he looked in my right eye and he said, "When did your father abandon you?"
Stop
And I
it.
said, "What?"
What?
I said, "How do you know that?"
Since when are these iridologists psychic too? Like
And
what?
and then he looked in my left eye and he goes, "You didn't have a good relationship with your mother either, did you?" And I was like, "Oh my God." Then I was hooked.
Well,
I
yeah.
was hooked. And then he proceeded to look in my eye, because your eye is the window to your soul, but it's also the window to your lymphatic system. And you have over 700 lymphatic systems in your vessels in your body, and 80% of the fluid in your body is lymph. So your lymph is really your septic system, right? We don't really have an immune system. We have a septic system, and the lymph is supposed to drain all the toxins that come into your body. Your white blood cells come from the macrophages of the lymph, and they're only necessary when you're in jeopardy, right? Otherwise, your T cell count should be fairly low. It should be almost non-existent.
Mm.
And when you eat cooked food, you spark your immune response because
Exactly. I
it's not
know.
natural.
No, it's crazy. It's crazy. We're like such a minority, but this is the facts.
Yeah. And so I mean, I'm paraphrasing now. So I got on the breathing journey, and then that led me to become a fruitarian, because once I normalized my blood chemistry through breath, I started to, as fate would have it, all of a sudden I found Dr. Sebi. Then I found Dr. Morse, and then I just OD'd on Dr. Morse videos. And I was like, I'm going to do this. I said, I'm a wrestler. I can do this. All I do is I wake up in the morning. I say, today I'm going to win the day. I'm going to win the day today. and I'm going to make good choices. And everything Dr. Morse said was right, because 10 months into it, my acupuncturist, different guy, because the other one told me I couldn't heal. And I said, I
Oh,
don't
yeah.
believe that. I don't believe that. So
You're like, I'm
I
out of here.
found someone else, because I had already healed 2 badly herniated discs, my S1 and L5,
How?
wrestling and doing Bikram yoga.
Oh, wow.
And I kept going
That's
because
how you healed them?
no, I
No, how
got
did you
hurt
heal them?
doing them.
Oh, I thought you said I already healed them.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I healed them through a network chiropractor. So it
Cool.
was all subconscious. It had to do with my mother.
Wow.
Yeah, it was like a moment on the
There's so much that trauma can do to us, right? And affect
yeah.
different things happening. It's not all food and things,
Well,
right?
let's talk about that, because
Yeah.
my mom smoked the entire pregnancy. Her mom smoked the entire pregnancy. So I was born with intergenerational toxicity. Right? I was toxic from the moment I was conceived. And when the iridologist looked in my eye, he said, "Do you know you have green eyes?" And I said, "What?" I said, "My eyes are brown. I was born with brown eyes. It says it on my birth certificate." He says, "Underneath the brown, your eyes are green." He said, "Did your mother smoke?" And I said,
You're
"Yes."
like, wow.
All through pregnancy, and her mother. He said, "Well, you were born with a dirty lymphatic system."
Wow, that's insane.
And I was
So
sick
fascinating,
all the
though.
time. She smoked in a 1-bedroom apartment in the Bronx in the 1970s.
Mm-hmm.
New York City was bankrupt.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we didn't have any money. It was terrible. And
Mm-hmm.
I was
Stressful. You're born
eating
into
processed
stress,
foods.
right?
Yep. And then I was eating processed foods. And she was not a good mother, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
And the stress was just immense. So when my second acupuncturist looked at me and he said, "Oh, this is all from childhood." And I said, "Gee, you could see that?" He said, "All your organ damage, everything is from stress."
I can't wait to go to this guy.
He's like, "Your adrenal glands are shot." And again, he was very nice. He's a Qigong master, Chinese man, been doing acupuncture for 55 years already. And 10 months into the fruit journey, I go every week now. I go to him every week. And after 4 weeks, he listened to my pulse and he said, "Wow, you're changing rapidly." He said, I know I told you not to do this." He said, "I don't think you should do this. You need protein. You work out all the time." I said, "Dr. Ming, I don't need protein." I take marine phytoplankton, which we'll get
Yeah, we
into.
got to talk about this.
We'll get
Marine
into that.
phytoplankton.
So I said, "Well, of course I respect your opinion, but I'm going to do this." I've only been with him for 8 months. I said, "I've been researching this. Dr. Morse says that he's seen a guy who was a quadriplegic get up and walk out of a wheelchair. He grew his spine back."
And you grew your hair back. Guys, stick around because we're
and
going to
I-
talk about that from hair loss to hair growth. Okay.
Yep. So after 4 weeks, he said, "Wow, you're changing rapidly. This diet's working for you, and I'm learning from you." And that's what you want to hear, right?
Yeah.
You want to hear he'd never had somebody like me. Now he's learning from me. And now he actually eats fruit at the beginning of the day.
I love that.
So after 10 months, he said to me, "Bryan, what you've done with your organs is nothing short of remarkable.
This is insane. I
I've
love
never
it.
seen anything like it."
And how fast amount of time was this?
10 months
See, that's
of being
amazing.
but that was fully fruit.
Only fruit.
Only fruit. Yeah. I mean, I transitioned though. I did avocados at night on raw vegetable wraps because I felt like I needed to eat because I was, toxic. Right. And I wasn't absorbing any nutrients.
How was the detox? Were there like headaches or like problems?
I didn't have headaches, but I pooped an enormous amount.
Wow.
So like when Dr. Moore says you have 15 pounds, I lost 20 pounds.
Of waste.
Yep. And then I've gained, since at my lowest, I've gained 8 pounds back. So now I'm at my college wrestling weight of 142.
You look like a great weight and a great size. Like you look very healthy.
I feel like this is homeostasis.
Yeah.
Because even though I work out all the time, I don't work out to get big anymore. I work out to be efficient, to move efficiently. That's how I train, not to have a goal of having a bigger bicep or lifting more weights. It's to be an efficient mover till I'm 100. And I don't see any reason why at 100 I should be degraded.
In
fact, I know it. I'm going to be better. I'm getting better. He tells me, "You're youthing."
That's what I
made
was
up
going to
this
ask you because
term.
you look very young. I have to say, like, guys, Bryan looks even younger in person because sometimes it's hard to tell when you see people on camera and stuff. You look
Thank you.
for not to like be like for 54, like or compare ages, but you look great. So have you found like from 44 to 54, like you look
Yeah.
younger, you think?
Yeah, I have pictures of me and you could see the difference.
And why do you think that is?
Fruit, because I remove the obstructions. What does Professor Erdős say? The life equation is vitality equals power minus O, which is obstructions. So when you remove the obstructions, you gain power and you have more vitality. It's that simple. It's really that simple. So I stopped putting the obstructions in my body, and then the fruit made my lymph activate and my kidneys started healing themselves, and then I started moving all that lymph and getting all the toxicity out. And it's not body fat, it's worse. And I'm not here to body shame anybody who thinks they like to have plump, there's a movement, but you're sick. You're chronically sick. And it's not that you have fat on you, it's that your body can't remove the toxins, and it puts these gases, these terrible, terrible noxious gases into the fat cell to keep it away from your vital organs. That's what aging is. It's metabolic acidosis. There's only one disease on the planet, and it's acidosis. And it leads to everything else.
Do you think there's certain foods that have been more like, I don't like to use the term anti-aging, but it's what we can all relate to most. Any certain foods that you think have been more anti-aging than others?
Bingo, we can get into the marine phytoplankton.
Okay, yeah. I don't know anything about marine phytoplankton. If you guys do, comment down below. I don't know anything about it, but I do know you consume mostly fruit and marine phytoplankton.
Yeah.
So what is this?
So this March, I will be on this product from ascendedhealth.com.
Yeah.
It's called marine phytoplankton, although I brought the wrong bottle.
Yeah.
This is my brain food.
Yeah.
So I take I don't take supplements, I take food. So there are...
is it green? It's green, right?
Yeah, it's green. So phytoplankton is the building blocks of life. It's the first organism created by light, sound, vibration, and of course, God. So in the ocean, the energy brought these molecules together, and it made this phytoplankton. And then as the phytoplankton proliferated, it produced waste. And this is what people don't understand about life. Again, it didn't produce energy, it produced waste because it had to get rid of something in order to gain energy back. So as it produced the waste, there was nothing left for it to eat on. So the phytoplankton morphogenically, right, Dr. 𝑒𝑚𝑠𝑐𝑫𝑬, it started to bring the waste back into it. And then it learned to feed off of its own waste.
Wow.
And then over 4.5 billion years, you have life on the planet. And it all comes from phytoplankton. It has all the essential fats, so I don't need to eat fish oils. I used to take 18 fish oils a day, especially when I went vegan. So I was like, oh, I have to keep eating DHA, so I was taking fish oils. But again, I was toxifying my liver. All those supplements. I was taking 60 pills a day.
Wow.
Because I thought I got to take all this stuff to be healthy. So I've always been on the health journey, but not understanding how to be clean, right? I thought what I was doing was clean, but it's actually killing me. So I stopped taking all the supplements and I got on the phytoplankton, which this March is 8 years. And then I started to notice that my bald spot was coming back.
Stop it.
My bald spot was starting to fill in. And then, here I am, and now I have a pretty nice head of hair.
Your hair looks great. That's one thing I complimented on to Bryan. I was like, your hair looks really good.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, I don't want to ask, is it real? Because I'm like, that's rude.
Oh, yeah, no, it's real.
Wow, interesting. Because and you think it's because of the marine phytoplankton.
Oh, I saw it growing back.
Get this at health food stores and stuff? Like, I don't know anything about it. And it's got B12, iodine, different nutrients in it.
It's got all the essential fats, all of the amino acids, all of them. So instead of putting flesh in my body for a protein, which you don't need, because none of the largest land animals live on protein, and they live longer. The carnivores live shorter, right? Common sense. It's just common sense. It's got almost all of the vitamins and minerals. Cool. So it's the perfect food.
And you consume it like in a smoothie or something, or in water?
I take 2 to 3 half teaspoons per day with water and on an empty stomach.
And your wife's not vegan. Does she consume this too, or no?
No, she doesn't do anything I do.
No, my husband too. We can talk a little bit about, but you still like happily married to make it work?
Of course,
yeah, exactly.
Because why would I ever care that she needs to live my lifestyle?
Yeah, and do you guys have kids?
No, not yet.
No, yeah.
I do have a kid, but from another marriage. He's 25.
Yeah, nice, amazing.
He's vegan.
Yeah, cool, awesome. Well, I've heard you say once too, okay, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I've heard you say eat fruit or eat meat. Don't eat vegetables.
Yeah.
Am I right or am I wrong?
Yeah, like I train a lot of world-class athletes, and they need to be aggressive. So they need to kind of put death in their body.
Really? What?
I mean, I know one fruitarian. He's
Yeah.
one of the top beach handball players in the world, and he's 30, and he's been a fully fruitarian since he's 18. And he's unbelievable.
What's his name? Who is this guy?
𝑼𝑺𝑬
Yeah.
and I forgot his last
12
name.
years fruitarian.
Yeah,
Wow.
and he's amazing. So I do think you can do it, but he doesn't play an aggressive sport.
Because you train athletes and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I tell them, if you're going to eat, first of all, if you're going to eat meat, you can't eat it with anything else. So I don't think it's easy to digest, but for them, the blood kind of makes them aggressive. It's, when
Yeah.
you watch a carnivore eating, they change.
They
right?
change. That's why I don't eat.
They change. They're like,
it changes you. You become what you eat. Your mood, your
Exactly.
food becomes your mood. Like you become that.
it's
And I
common
don't want to be
sense.
that. That's why I don't eat that.
It's common
Don't
sense.
you? That's why, because you don't eat animal products. You haven't for 11
No,
years, right?
11
I think?
years, yeah.
Yeah.
And never again. I mean, I'm never going to eat it again.
And you don't feel like you need it. You don't feel like you're missing anything. Like
No.
how do you feel?
Yeah, I feel beautifully calm and blissful that I want to be kind to people. And I used to want to fight people. I live in New York City.
Mhm.
If somebody was
Yeah.
was blocking the subway door, I'm going to push you out of the way. I'm
Yeah.
not going to slide. I'm going to push you out of the way. But now I slide
Yeah.
because I don't want to create stress for myself.
Yeah.
And I don't hold my breath. I don't need to be in trauma.
This lifestyle, like
Exactly.
the fruits, the raw foods, they just make you feel more calm. Like I was like that too. I used to rage, like
Yeah.
get road rage and all that. Now I'm like, I'm not saying it's always perfect. Sometimes my kids get me going and things happen,
Right.
but like I'm pretty calm on this lifestyle
Right.
too. Yeah.
So I do believe that you could probably play a sport and not eat meat, but vegetables are actually worse because they have cellulose and you don't digest vegetables well at all. You don't have a digestive system that correlates to be able to digest
You think?
vegetables well.
So how
I-
come I feel so good though when I
Well,
eat salads and stuff?
No, you do, but we can live to hundreds of years old,
Mhm.
not 100, but hundreds of years.
True. Yeah.
I mean, there are people in India who have never eaten or drank. They're called sannyasi. They've been alive forever.
No.
Yeah.
And I've heard that-
Babaji's 2,000 years old.
I've heard some people
Yogananda's-
used to live to be like some people probably think this is crazy, but I've heard some people used to live to be like 250 just eating fruit and like
Yeah.
Greek back in the day. Like I don't
Yeah,
know
of
if this
course.
is true.
Of
So what
course.
about if people say, well, this is crazy, long term you're gonna get sick, like you need more nutrients of this, like how do you respond if people say that?
Well, I've been on the phytoplankton 3 years longer than I've been on the fruit.
Hmm.
So I'm not going to get off the fruit.
Mhm.
So people will question me. They're like, well, you say fruit's so great, but you're on the phytoplankton. Why don't you try it without well, I'm like, well, I don't want to do
Gotta
that.
love the internet.
Yeah, I mean, I don't need to do that. I don't need to do that to prove fruit. Like, I want to do what's best
Yeah,
for me. I'm not
yeah.
going to try to prove that fruit works. Like, so that's my secret key ingredient. I tell everybody that's what I take to make sure that I'm getting everything I need to get. If
Mhm.
there's a fruit that I'm eating that, I don't eat. I eat organic when it's available, but I don't pay attention to that because I also believe Dr. Morris. He said, I had a person who had stage 4 cancer and she was broke and she ate nothing but Walmart grapes for a year and she
Mhm.
healed herself.
Yeah. You do the best with what you've got.
So the fruit's still going to heal you because it's electrolyzed water. It's biophotons. It's H3O2.
And I think you did a fruit cleanse. Like, well, a
I've
lot
done-
of people
yeah.
will say like your life is a fruit cleanse, but you did only grapes. I did only grapes for 28 days, I think.
Yeah.
And it felt like the deepest cleanse of my life, especially because I grew up around a lot of smoke and stuff. I've never smoked a cigarette or even a drag a day in
Yeah,
my
me
life.
neither.
But all this stuff, we have so much in
But
common.
I drank a lot.
But me
We
too.
can talk about that stuff. I've
But all
drank
the-
and done drugs. I'm very open book.
It's crazy how much we have in common. But the secondhand
Yeah.
smoke, so for me, the lungs, for somebody who's been a smoker, been around it, like the grape cleanse does so much for your sinuses. Did you find
Yeah.
that as well?
Oh, I did. Yeah. New York State has got Concord grapes. And then Dr. Moore says they're the best. So I did 16 straight days. I wanted to do the whole month, but
It's
honestly,
hard.
I got bored.
Yeah, yeah.
I got bored just juicing my grapes all the day
Oh,
and
you
drinking the
juice too?
same. Well, yeah, I wanted to do a Concord grape juice cleanse.
Oh, you only juice them?
Yeah, yeah.
Whoa, that's
Yeah,
intense.
but I was sleeping like 4 hours a night, waking up feeling just not, when you're on fruit, you don't have a lot of energy. You just feel great.
Yeah.
You know, it's not about having more energy. It's about having the right balance of energy, yin and yang. So I've done 16 days of grapes. I've done like 7 days of watermelon. I did 9 days last year of sumo oranges. I'm back on sumo oranges now.
Juicing or eating them?
Eating them.
Yeah.
I enjoy eating.
Yeah.
Ideally, I'd like to be breatharian, but we'll see. That's probably
Wow.
not going to come till later in life.
And people actually do that, you think? They just live off the breath?
Oh, there's a great YouTube channel called Breatharian World.
Yeah.
And people all over the world are just sparking. All of a sudden, they just decide they want to stop eating.
Yeah. Wow.
I mean, we weren't designed to eat. Our digestive organs are redundant. They're not one of the 5 major organs.
Yeah.
The 5 major organs have nothing to do with digestion.
Mm-hmm.
We were breatharian in nature. I don't know how we started here, but we were light beings. We were less dense. And as soon as we started drinking water and eating, because however, I don't know. I don't know if I believe anything about Bible studies or anything like that, but in the garden, in the lost books of Eden, when Adam and Eve left the garden, the first thing they ate were figs. And figs are brain food.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a fantastic book called Return to the Brain of Eden by Tony Wright. And it will blow your mind.
I gotta check it out.
This guy is on another level, but he's disappeared. And I'm probably because he's totally disconnected from society and the world. He's done sleep deprivation, 10 days no sleep.
So what did you see about that? I think sleep is 10 days no sleep. I've heard a person can die. What happens?
You actually don't need sleep.
No way. I don't believe that.
You need sleep because you're dirty inside. We're still dirty.
But if we are like super clean and healthy, we don't.
That's why when I was on the grape cleanse, I was sleeping 4 hours a night.
But like everything's not food too. What if we have a lot of stimulation in your life? Like back home in Toronto with my kids and my channel and my this, my that. We live in a small apartment. I have so much stimulation. So I almost feel like I need the sleep because I'm so stimulated, not even because of like my food.
Yeah. But in the oldest recorded book, the Epic of Gilgamesh, his whole thing was to try to stay up for 7 days and 7 nights, and he failed to do it. Wow. So Tony Wright did it, and they studied him. So they said, we're not going to do it any more than 5 days. And he said, okay. So he stayed up for 3 days beforehand. And then he did 5 days, and he learned the Icelandic language in 6 hours.
That's crazy.
His left brain went to sleep, and his right brain woke up, and your right brain is the God side.
Yeah.
And you access all of the junk DNA that they call junk, which isn't, you access it. And he became ambidextrous. Every test they gave him, he passed. Like they were just in shock. But you got to read the book. It's insane.
Yeah, I got to read that book. That's crazy.
So I'm just on this, this journey. I mean, nobody I know does anything I do.
Me too, pretty much. I have the pleasure of interviewing and talking to a lot of people who do a lot of similar things.
My friends think I'm crazy.
But my friends in real life back home don't.
Yeah. They all go, you look great, but you're nuts.
They're like, you look great. I'm inspired, but I don't think I could do it.
Look your age.
Extreme and crazy, right?
They all still drink.
So yeah, you used to drink. Me too. I used to drink every day. So I started drinking at 14 years old. And at first I thought it was gross.
13
but then
for
you
me.
use it because you're like, oh, I feel comfortable at parties, or like this makes me just feel not as insecure and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Then in my 20s, I started drinking every day to deal with stress and forget about things and and I drank every day for like a decade.
Right.
And then I went raw. And I felt and feel better than any high, any drinking, anything ever of anything. So was that been the case for you? How's your mental health been? Do you miss drinking, drugs?
I don't miss drinking. I told you when my wife and I went to Sicily back in August. So once a year, I let myself have a little of some things that I've given up.
I like that, once a year.
So I had coffee in Sicily.
Yeah.
I ate pizza.
It's Italy, like,
and
come on.
And I had 2 glasses of wine.
Yeah.
It came right from the vineyard right
Anyone over there on the patio taking a picture, posting it? Look at Bryan. He's not really
they don't
fruitarian.
They don't have to because I talk about it.
Yeah, good. I like that. Once a year. I love that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm honest.
Good. You have to be. Me too.
And when I was 29 and I got divorced, it was a really bad breakup. I had never done drugs, although I'd been drinking. That's a drug. I didn't know it was a drug. So then the floodgates opened. And I had a very famous friend who was owning a fashion house, very, very famous.
Mm-hmm.
And I was training him and traveling the world. And he had been trying to get me to party, and I wouldn't. And then when my life went down the tubes, I let the demons in. And then the demons attacked me, and they stuck to me. And, you know, there is demonic possession. And I was possessed because they fed off my energy, my louche.
I feel like alcohol is really bad vibes. Don't you
Oh,
feel
it's,
like?
well, the root meaning of alcohol is ghoul. It comes from the Latin word, you know, 𝑼𝑺𝑬. So it means ghoul, spirits, alcohol and spirits. They tell you, but people don't think about it, right? The etymology of words, they tell you exactly what they're doing. Everything's taught in reverse because we live in the matrix. And I'm breaking free from that, you know. So at 29, I started doing drugs, and then I did drugs for 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
In New York City?
You know? Yeah.
Yeah.
In New York City.
That's
in the
just
90s.
a race you're not going to win, like chasing these highs and just, you know.
Yeah, it was miserable. I was miserable all the time. I was feeling like shit all the time because.
Were you broke and stuff? I feel like just people lose everything when they start going down that road.
I never let it go that far.
Yeah.
It was more like every weekend.
Yeah.
Going to the Sound Factory or
a
club here in New York City and having to do ecstasy.
And that all started with the divorce.
Yeah.
Divorce is how long were you married before you got divorced?
13 months.
Oh, I thought you were going to say 13 years. Still, it's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we were together for 19 months, but anyway. You know, it's right.
Yeah.
Everything I had that was good
now. And now you look back and you probably think I'm glad this happened because it led me here, right?
Exactly. That's my journey.
And even with your mom smoking and stuff and your childhood,
you're here to remember.
For it now?
I am grateful for it.
Yeah. And I follow Joel Osteen. Like, I don't really consider myself religious, but I consider myself spiritual. But I love his messages and the things he says. I find them very relatable. And oftentimes, like, he says stuff like, if you were meant to have a different parent or a different childhood, or it was part of your destiny or purpose, you would have had it. So, like, that really resonates with me, hearing him say that. Like, we had exactly what we're meant to have.
However, a child up to the age of 7 is malleable. Their brain is in theta the whole time. They're imaginating. So when you torture them, you mess them up for life. And that trauma never leaves you. It never leaves you. Everything is etched in your brainstem. It's like an explosion of light in the DNA. And unless you do soul work, which I've done a lot of, I go to a network chiropractor who's a total body modification chiropractor. It's all applied kinesiology. And I've helped to remove the stored emotions out of my body, but I'm not done yet. The healing journey never ends. And now my goal is to have a fully straight spine. And that's like a Kundalini awakening. And that's my goal in life, is to open my spine and open my pineal gland.
Wow, what a beautiful goal. And what if somebody's watching, they're like hurting inside because they've had some traumas in their life and they are bitter, or maybe like they can't get past that divorce or the childhood this, like any tips for?
Wow. That's hard because there's so many things you can do, but not one thing is going to be that, you know, the thing that gets you over the top. I mean, I would say finding a network chiropractor or an NET specialist and having them help you to remove those subconscious traumas that are stored in your fascial system that manifest into physical injury.
Like chiropractors do that. They remove like traumas and stuff. I didn't know that.
Well, they read the energy. So my chiropractor's third eye is open and he can read the colors emanating from the organs, like Roy G. Biv, the colors of the, you know, the rainbow.
Yeah.
So he can read those colors and he can hear your emotions. His body, my body will tell him what I'm holding on to. And there are still emotions. I said, I still have emotions in me, right? He's like, because I don't have a fully free functional spine. And I'm like, how do you? He's like, you just got to keep doing the work, you know? But when I was at, you know, I mean, there were many times where I wanted to kill myself. And I tried to by doing a lot of drugs, right? By doing 8 hits of ecstasy in a night, things like that, by having as much random sex as I could have, unprotected, you know? I mean, I really, I did everything you shouldn't do, you know, and now I've left all of that. And I'm happy I did experience it because it's the only way I would be able to teach others. Not to teach others, to share my experience. I don't teach anybody. I share my own experience. I don't tell people what to do. In my Instagram channel, I'm always talking about what I've done.
Me too.
What I experienced. Not, this is what you should do.
Yeah.
Don't do this.
Yeah.
You know, I
Good
just try to
point.
teach
That's great. I
from
love
my
that.
perspective. And if the information resonates, then it resonates for you. I'm a projector, my gene key.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a projector and I'm projecting on my gene key. I'm actually the embodiment of health. So I have this gene key that is,
What do you mean this gene key?
what's his name? Richard Rudd, I think. He wrote
Yes.
this book called The Gene Keys. It's this big. It's enormous. But you have these certain gene keys that you come into this incarnation with, and you can determine what your trajectory is.
Wow.
And one of my gene keys is that I embody health, and I'm actually now living my gene key. So I'm projecting that out into the world like magnificently. And then the periphery of the projector, right, are the people that try to take you down. They're like, no, you need to be eating meat. It's not good. Hyperventilation is good for you. The people that are screaming at you, they're on the periphery, and you just don't pay them any mind. You don't pay them any mind because they're stuck in the matrix. They don't.
You just ignore them completely,
You know,
like comments or
they're living their life, and that's okay. I don't care.
Me too. Yeah.
You can live your life.
Yeah.
Most of my friends still drink and stuff like that, and I don't say a word to them. I don't tell them they shouldn't. Live your life.
Yeah.
I don't begrudge anybody for what they consider to be their happiness. You know, I just try to project what I feel to be good health.
Yeah.
And it does rub off on a lot of people, and that's what's good.
It is.
And when I open my spine, I'm going to get those downloads, and it's going to be, I'm going to help to increase the vibration of the planet, which is what we're here to do, to increase the collective vibration and to move us into this fifth dimension, which is already here. I don't know if you ever heard of 𝑼𝑺𝑬 𝑪𝑶𝑫𝑬.
No.
But I've done that 6 times.
DMT?
Well, it's different. It's 5-MeO-DMT.
Okay. I've heard about DMT.
Again, it shuts down.
And like ayahuasca, that type of stuff?
Yeah, it's not ayahuasca.
Okay.
It clears your subconscious.
No way.
Yeah, you experience God.
No way. You've done this?
6 times.
Like what, you go to a retreat or something?
Yeah, I did it with a psychologist.
What? Tell me about this.
Yeah.
How was this? Like you feel like you're God, like you truly feel like you're connected.
You become the source energy, right? And then you also realize that religion has nothing to do with real life.
Yeah, which I believe too.
Because it's given to you by man, and man has nothing to do with God, right? You know, there's no words coming from man that's going to make me more aligned to God than I can align myself.
Was it one of the most amazing experiences you've ever had?
Yeah. I mean, I became the Buddha. I felt as if I was the Buddha, and I had healed the world, and the world had shifted. And the last time I did it, I felt the world shift, the balance of the universe shift, and I know I did that. And ultimately, it's leading us into a different direction. And Dr. David Dawkins, who wrote the Power versus Force, who came up with the consciousness scale, humanity right now is about 215. And now, once you get above 200 on the consciousness scale, you can't stop the trajectory. So we are headed in the right direction. It'd probably take about 80 more years, but we're going to have a shift where the world changes in an instant. And the people who are vibrating at a very low level, the people that are doing terrible things to women and children out there in the world.
I can't even deal with that stuff.
Like The Sound of Freedom.
Like I can't even understand that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So the movie The Sound of Freedom shows us what's happening in the world. Well, the darkness has to be exposed. And it's by having more light come into the planet. And the planet is now in the photon belt. That's what ascension is. Every 25,000.
So it will all change one day, you think, on this planet?
It's going to change in the blink of an eye.
Wouldn't that just be incredible?
There's going to be a solar flash and everything's going to just change.
Because some of the dark is just too much. Some of the evil, some of the things that happen here. Sometimes I'm just like, it's going to be nice to head back up to heaven one day and not deal with that. But that would be so amazing if it just changed down here.
Right. I mean, there is evil in the world, but you don't have to experience it.
True.
But you have to be aware of it.
Yeah, you do.
Because there are people that will come after you.
That's what I realized.
Because they send, the energy sends people to take you down.
It's crazy.
Yeah. I had a moment on my roof where I was in deep meditation and a helicopter stopped I felt as if I was about to transcend to hit samadhi. And all of a sudden there was a police helicopter that came. It was like 100 feet away from me, and it just stayed there for like 5 minutes. I had this experience.
Wow.
And I was like, and I'm looking at it, and then I just said, fuck it. I'm going to close my eyes.
Mm-hmm.
You're not there.
Mm-hmm.
And it went away.
Wow.
And I believe that they sent that helicopter to stop me from reaching nirvana. And it actually,
what? Wow.
It actually worked, because it took me out of that space, because I was transcending in the moment, but the helicopter came so close to my building.
See, and like,
you just couldn't happen like that.
Do you think all this spiritual stuff would be happening if you didn't embark on a raw food diet?
It wouldn't be happening if I didn't start learning to command my breathing first.
Okay, yeah, we gotta talk about breathing. So I know you said, like, if you go through traumas, you can, I think, like, I don't know if you haven't said it this way, but is it kind of like you get in a state of fight or flight and you're just in that state all the time, you're stressed, so your breathing is really tight?
Yeah. Well,
like, I went through some trauma in 2020. It was like the worst thing in my whole life. And I think since then I've kind of, like, I'm happy, I'm raw, I feel so good. But sometimes my breathing is like tight, you know? So like, what can happen to us if we're in that state and we're not breathing properly? Like, what can happen to us long term?
Well, in the 6 years I've been a breathing instructor, I think I've worked with about 700 or 800 people, and I've only met 2 good breathers.
What? Wow.
2 people that presented good breathing mechanics when I first met them. And the rest of the population, 99%, are not breathing well at all.
I believe it.
Yeah, the godfather of pulmonology is Professor Konstantin 𝑔𝒂𝒗𝒆, and he started this breathing method in the late 50s and 60s, and he based it off this physiological law called the oxygen hemoglobin dissociation curve, which is also called the Bohr law, because Niels Bohr's father.
Mm-hmm.
So Niels Bohr won the Nobel Prize in 1919 for quantum physics, but his dad was a famous scientist too. When he was 85 years old, he found in the lab this law of cellular respiration. So there's 2 forms of respiration. Breathe in, breathe out is external respiration, but my cell also breathes, and that's internal respiration.
Like the cells in our body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So every single cell in your body breathes, which means I don't just breathe through my nose and with my diaphragm. I breathe with every single tissue in my body.
Mm-hmm.
And people don't understand that. So I don't do breath work. I don't teach breath work. I don't believe that there should be any work involved in breathing. I'm a restorative breathing coach, and I teach people how to restore their innate ability to breathe that they were born with.
Does it make a big difference in people's lives? Like, do you notice when you're showing them this and when they do these changes, they say like, wow, Bryan, like, this has changed my life?
Well, I put a lot of testimonials on my Instagram page.
Yeah.
And I have one guy, Chris, he's a hypnotherapist and he speaks for a living. And
I love hypnotherapy. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a beautiful young man. And he sought me out. He found me on the 𝑼𝑺𝑬 website. And he told me, I can't even get in my car to go down the New Jersey Turnpike to visit my mother for 20 minutes without having a panic attack.
Oh my goodness. Those are so bad. I used to have those before I went raw. Those are the worst.
Yeah. And now he's traveling the world doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tournaments and speaking all over the place.
And bye-bye panic attacks.
Yeah, bye-bye panic attacks. Because most of us live in a chronic state of hyperventilation, but we don't know this.
So what's the best way?
And the foods we eat make us breathe faster.
Yes.
Because they're toxic. And when you're toxic, you breathe faster because it's adrenalizing you. It's stimulating you. And if you're stimulated, you're going to breathe harder. And all of the masters didn't breathe hard. I don't want to call out any person, but hyperventilation is big in the world. It's the single worst technique you should do. You should never hyperventilate.
Mm-hmm.
It's not found in nature.
Mm-hmm.
Animals don't hyperventilate. People are like, well, what about when they're running and they open their mouth? I'm like, no, the cheetah is running with its mouth closed trying to catch the antelope. The antelope has its mouth closed, and they're breathing through their nose while they're at apex speed. They're not breathing through their mouth. When they stop the chase, they open their mouth to off-gas the excess buildup of lactate in the body. And then they have to remove that gas, but eventually the mouth closes. So they're not hyperventilating, they're panting to off-gas the increase of lactate because it's toxic. This is why athletes who throw up in the middle of practice, you didn't work hard and that's good. You worked so hard that you became toxic and you vomited to get that stuff out of your body because you produced so much lactate that you became toxic and your body said, I got to get rid of this. That's what that is. So, I teach people to breathe slow.
And do we have to sit and do sessions of this, or can we just train ourselves to breathe differently in our everyday life, like right now?
Yeah, you could train yourself to breathe differently.
The best way.
To learn to breathe at a specific cadence, it's called resonance frequency breathing. So on PubMed, if you type that in, it'll tell you that the perfect breath is 5.5 in, 5.5 out. But I teach to breathe in. Well, the science says that it's physiologically, it does nothing but good things to your body. So I'll tell you 3 things. It lowers your brain waves, which is most important. So you got to change the bioelectrics of your brain first and foremost. So when you lower your brain waves into alpha and theta, you're not in beta, and you're more in that calm stage where you're originating ideas, not thinking ideas, not trying to think them. That's why every scientist always said they came up with the idea when they weren't even expecting it, when they weren't thinking about it. That's what Einstein said. The theory of relativity just popped into his head. Tesla was the receiver. He said your brain is just the receiver and it's receiving information from the Akashic records.
So we can probably experience better things and more creative ideas if we're breathing better.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, Autobiography of a Yogi, written by Yogananda. That's another fantastic book to read because he talks about the people who've never eaten, who barely breathe. His guru, who was considered as 𝑖𝑺𝑬 𝑪𝑶𝑫𝑬, was as close to the Buddha as you can get, like a bodhisattva. He was breathing 1 breath a minute, 1 breath every minute.
That's just another level.
Right? But you also don't want to be involved in life, because again, Babylon, the 6,000 years of Babylonian rule has adrenalized us and made us fearful and made us think that we need to be consumers, right? Obey. And when you start to breathe like that, you don't want to be part of society.
And when we sleep, is it okay? Like, some people have said they tape their mouth shut when they sleep because it's better for dental health and for like breathing and stuff. Is that true?
Yes.
Do you do that?
I do, but that's only because I do have more of a narrow jaw and had a lot of teeth pulled when I was a kid.
Oh, wow.
So my palate is more narrow than it should be, than I was born with. So if I don't put tape on my mouth will open and I will snore. And that's really bad.
You had like adult teeth pulled as a kid?
Yeah.
My dad had that. He went through a rough childhood and they like pulled all his teeth out.
Yeah, everything they do medically is bad for us.
That's crazy. So, okay.
Everything we've ever learned, you have to unlearn.
Yeah, we have to unlearn a lot. So taping our mouth shut is maybe a positive thing while we sleep. It sounds crazy probably to an average viewer watching it. And I think I've heard there's like dental benefits. I don't do it, but I've heard people talking about it lately.
Yeah, well, if you breathe out and in and out through your mouth, you're pulling the toxins into your mouth and your mouth is going to get dry. And the saliva in there got bacteria, and the bacteria are keeping your mouth clean, right? It's actually what starts to produce nitric oxide. And nitric oxide is the miracle molecule that when you breathe in, it binds to oxygen and it brings more oxygen into your lungs. And then it takes the blood from the lower lobes and it flushes the blood to the entire lobe of the lung. And that's how you bring more oxygen into your body. But it also, once it brings the oxygen to the alveoli, the little tiny sacs in your lungs, it then binds on the outgoing part and it makes a molecule called carboxyhemoglobin, and it helps to remove more waste. So if you lost 10 pounds, 7 of those pounds are coming out as a gas. It's not coming out as fecal matter.
So when you're around the house working, making reels, like not talking, you're just doing work or you're alone, is your mouth just always shut when you're breathing?
Now I'm trained.
Well, we have to train ourselves to do that though.
I can keep my mouth shut at all times. Yeah. And,
I can't.
And at exercise. So I train world-class athletes and I tell them during training, you should be breathing through your nose But during an event, they got to breathe through their mouth if they need to. But you can also train an athlete not to. But that takes hard work. It's hard work, and it's also tough because coaches are always pushing athletes too hard. And they think that the harder they push them, the better they become. And that might be relevant in the short term, but athletes do live shorter lives than regular people. And there's a reason for it because they've been overstressed.
Wow.
So
interesting.
Yeah. So breathing is the pillar of health.
So what about us?
Food isn't even necessary.
What about us regular people at the gym? People like me who aren't these like heavy athletes. If I'm on the elliptical for 40 minutes,
should
my
never
mouth be
open
shut
your
the
mouth.
whole time?
Yeah, if you're a recreational, unless you're a competitive athlete, your mouth should never open unless you're eating and talking.
And the thing is, you have to eat clean then, because I noticed when I didn't used to eat clean, I had a lot of mucus with my breathing and my nose. Like
That's right.
I would have to sleep
That's right.
or train or live my life with mouth breathing. Now, like they used to tell me I had sinusitis and all these things. And I was like, I just back in the day,
Right.
thought,
I had
okay.
all of that.
And then I
all
went
gone.
raw. My breathing is so good.
Yeah.
So clear. Like I never experienced that
Yep.
until I went raw ever. So like now I feel like I could definitely do what you're saying, like close the mouth. But I
Yep.
think for somebody eating the standard American diet, that would be very difficult.
Yeah.
Like I don't know how that could
Dairy-
happen.
Dairy and grains are the worst.
Yeah.
Then I would say meat and vegetables. And then,
Yeah.
of course, fruit is top.
Yeah. Crazy.
But yeah, all of that stuff is going to create congestion and mucus in your body. And anytime you have mucus in your body, then you know that you're toxic.
Exactly.
You
Yeah.
know, you're not supposed to have mucus. I don't wake up in the morning and blow my nose.
No, me too.
My wife does.
Yeah. Do you say stuff? You don't, right?
Of course, no.
No,
I know.
it's just like you can't, right? It's gonna make it like
she'll never listen to this, but I throw her under the bus all the time. I mean, I tell her, she knows this anyway, because she hears me talking. I have a group. I do these monthly platforms, and I tell people all the time, and she hears me, and she looks at me, but she's joking around because she doesn't care. She wants to live her life. So she doesn't care when I say things like that.
Does she drink or no?
No.
No.
She's Japanese. If she has a sip of alcohol,
That's
she
good
gets very
then.
sick.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Well, I want to pull up some of the viewers' questions too.
Oh,
'cause
cool.
They have some good ones for you.
Cool.
My viewers are amazing. Shout out to you guys because you're just literally the nicest people on the internet. I don't know how I got so blessed. But someone wants to know. Okay, hold on. Here they are. One sec. I'd love, lots of questions about breathing and running. Yeah, what about breath work and running? Anything there that you want to touch on?
If you're running and you can't keep your mouth closed, then you need to slow down or stop until you can recover your breathing through your nose. It's that simple. Again, the cheetah doesn't run with its mouth open. A horse can't even breathe through its mouth.
So are any of your breathing exercises like with the mouth open, or they're
No.
all closed, right?
Yeah, they're all
So do you think
closed.
the mouth should always be closed?
Yes.
Like unless we're talking?
Yes.
I'm learning so much today.
Yes.
Wow, interesting. And someone said during the beginning of your transition, how did you, so this is about your transition, I think, to food, to the different lifestyle. How did you tell coworkers and friends that you're changing your diet? Did they respect your decision? It's a good question.
Well, I work at home. I work for myself, or I go out and I train people. So I'm only seeing people one-on-one. And nobody questioned me because they all respected me to begin with. And then my friends will say, again, like I mentioned to you earlier, they say, "You're crazy, but you look great."
Yeah.
So
They're New Yorkers. They're honest.
nobody really questions me because look at me. And I don't mean that in a cocky way.
No,
But
but
look at me,
yeah, you look a lot younger.
you know?
Like
And I
you
didn't-
look like you're, I would say like 41 max.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, I mean that.
I'll take that.
No, yeah.
No more
Like
30s.
I'm 41. I'm 41. I feel like we look
Nice.
the
So
same
you look
age.
great too.
No, I feel like we
Yeah,
look
you
the same
much younger.
age. So you're doing something right. And someone said, how do you stay consistent in eating raw? I want to be consistent in it, but I've fallen in love with the raw diet. It's perfect. I just want to know how you stay consistent, resist temptation, avoid making mistakes and falling back, and just remaining steadfast and embracing a plant-based lifestyle. That's a good one. I think that's just the most people's thing.
Okay, here's the biggest thing. When you go off the diet, don't judge yourself for it.
Mm-hmm.
Allow it to happen and put no thought to it. In fact, if you're going to eat something that isn't part of that diet, enjoy it. Don't go, "Oh man, I know I shouldn't be eating this." No, freaking enjoy it, because if you don't, you're going to cause stress to yourself.
Exactly.
So number one, when you cheat, enjoy it, and then get right back on the
How do
program.
we do that? So if someone does that, like last year I had a couple cheat days in Miami, and I think I had 2 cheat days last year, pretty good. But then I was like, oh, why did I do that? I feel so much worse. Like, how do we avoid those thoughts?
Yeah, it's not easy because I do the same thing.
But we know we shouldn't do that. But it's a big thing in our community because we see how it is to feel this good. So then if we have cheat days, we beat ourselves up, a lot of us. So that's a big common thing in the community because we all know how it is to feel good.
Yeah, the reason I will have those thoughts is because I immediately don't feel good.
Me
and
too.
When I don't feel good, I
like,
go,
why did I do this?
Man, why did I go that route when I know that's
like,
gonna
let's
happen?
have a coffee. And then last year I had one, and then like instantly I felt like, why did I do this? I'm like, you know?
But I've gotten over that now.
Yeah.
So that's my advice, but I've gotten over that now. So like I told you, when I have my 1 year, I mean, when I was in Sicily, I enjoyed every second of it.
And you got to have some fun, connect with your wife a bit.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure you connect anyway. It's not all food,
Right.
right?
But yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
And then I came home and I got right back on my diet. Actually, I fasted.
Yeah.
Just like I did. Because on Christmas Eve and Christmas, I ate some cooked food, and same thing at New Year's. And then on New Year's Day, I started fasting, and I did a nice quick 48-hour fast. And then I got right back on fruit. And I've only had watermelon today. And, I feel really good. And I don't, when you eat fruit too, you don't crave more food. That's the thing.
Yeah.
You get satiated because it's soluble fiber. So it actually gives you water, whereas, I'm sorry, but even vegetables steal water.
Yeah, fruit has the most water.
You know?
Like, unless something like a banana, I feel like I need more water, but most other fruits, I'm like, you're so hydrated. But yeah, with the vegetables, if I have my salads and stuff, I feel like I need more water.
Right.
Than if I'm just like, I can't remember. Yeah.
Right. So,
Yeah. Good point. And somebody said, but it's funny because, there's so many people at the other end of things. There's like anti-fruit people who are like, you should be high vegetable because fruit's bad. It's bad for your blood sugar and your teeth and like all these things.
Well, there's a great podcast with Dr. Fred Bishi, who's about...
Oh, he's been on my channel.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I interviewed him at his house in Staten Island.
Wow.
I'll link that down below. He's 94.
Yeah.
He was running around the house like a 20-year-old showing me things and just so mentally with it. But
what? He looks frail to me.
You think? But he's 94.
So?
I saw him in person.
There are yogis that are 94 that can do amazing yoga poses.
True.
Fred can't.
But I thought he looked good.
Fred, I bet you Fred can't even run.
But I do notice a lot of the raw foodies are like high fat, higher vegetables.
Yeah,
you don't think you'd ever go to that? Never.
About a year ago, he did a podcast with Dr. Morse.
Oh, he did? The two of them together?
First time ever.
No way.
Yeah, it was about a year ago.
Wow.
Yeah,
on Zoom?
Yeah, it's out there somewhere because I watched it.
Yeah.
And I've actually spoken to Dr. Bishi because he's friends with the guy who I was telling you about owns Good Sugar here.
Yeah, like I interviewed him. He was like, oh, long-term fruitarians is not good, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, but I'm going to be running when I'm 94. I'm not going to be, okay, it's nice to have your mental acuity, but I'll be athletic.
You're so athletic. Do you work out every day or no?
Well, I don't work out every day because I don't feel the need to do that. I don't work out for more than 40 minutes. So again, I don't stress my body. I work out to move. I don't work out to stress my body.
I love that.
I mean, but again, I've had all these changes, right? Because working out is too stressful for your body and it creates stress in your body and it's not good for you either. So I used to lift a lot of weights. I was a power lifter. I squatted 622 pounds. I was jacked, but it all led to my downfall of my herniated discs and all my joint pain and everything that led up to that. And now I don't have any of that. And I'm moving as good as I did when I was 20. And I know that I'm going to get younger because I'm not going to stop what I'm doing. So my spine's going to get freer. I'm going to get more mobile and I'm going to be able to be more active even as I get older. I'm not going to slow down.
And what about green juice? Because don't you think that would be more easily digested than like if you think like the vegetables? Like to me, nothing makes me feel better than green juice or, that's your green juice.
I don't eat vegetable green juice.
That's your green juice.
My greens are my marine phytoplankton.
I'm going to get into this too.
Yeah, well, you should.
Yeah, I'm excited. I've learned a lot here today with you. And somebody said, how does your breathing change throughout the day from meditation, gym weight training, normal breathing, etc.? And how should we breathe most of the time?
Great question. So when I'm meditating...
Shout out Joanne. Great question.
When I'm meditating, I meditate on what we call air hunger. Now, air hunger would signify that you're feeling a desire that you want to take in more air. But when you get really good at it, then air hunger is barely breathing. And if you have a high tolerance to carbon dioxide and a low sensitivity to the buildup of CO2, then when you're meditating, you're barely breathing, you're lowering your brain waves, your blood pH is perfectly neutral, and you stimulate your primordial energy, which is your kidneys.
Mm.
And you don't need to breathe. Again, that's why the master meditators, like in the book, Yogananda says that he would go up to 𝑒𝑚𝑠𝑐𝑠 and he would be like, he hasn't taken a breath in 20 minutes. Literally, they stop breathing because that's when they transcend.
Wow.
Again, there's so much we need to know about who we truly are. And that's why you came back, to remember who you truly are, which is a light being
I
who's
agree with
here
that.
to be nothing but loving,
Completely
right?
agree.
To not kill, to not, do no harm, leave no trace.
And that's part of the reason, like, you don't want that energy in you, right? Of like the dead animals and stuff. Yeah.
So when I'm meditating, it's barely breathing. When I'm speaking, I try to speak deliberately. And I don't know if you see, sometimes I stop, I breathe in through my nose, and then I finish my sentence, and I don't get caught in run-on sentences. And I used to get breathless as I was speaking. And I can speak for an hour and not get breathless anymore because my tolerance to carbon dioxide is very high. So it's at a level where I don't experience breathlessness at rest. And then when I'm exercising, I'm also paying attention to the cadence of how I breathe. So obviously I'm going to breathe a little faster and a little harder, but I'm still trying to maintain a deeper breath, a bigger breath that's lower, and it's still at a slower speed. So what I teach athletes is to breathe less hard than they've ever breathed, no matter how hard they're going.
Wow. You know so much. We're going to have to
Thank
come back.
you.
Subscribe, guys, because I'm going to come back to New York soon and we'll have to do more
Oh,
because there's
awesome.
just so much to talk about.
Awesome.
And somebody said because it's raw foods, nuts and seeds and fruits. Oh, well, you eat mostly only fruit, but do you eat 3 times a day or more? Yeah. So, like, what do you eat in a day and how much?
In the summer, I tend to eat more, so I'll eat fruit more often.
Okay.
And in the winter, I generally eat 3 times. So this morning, I had a half a mini watermelon, which was at 12 o'clock.
And that's all you've had all day?
So far, yeah.
Wow.
And my marine phytoplankton. And then when I leave here, because it's only a 10-minute walk from me, I'm going to go home and I'm going to have the other half. And then for dinner, I'm going to have bananas with Honeycrisp apples and blueberries and Cocoa June coconut yogurt.
Nice.
I don't know if you heard of this new yogurt.
No.
But it's literally fermented coconut.
Well, I make the
No pasture.
Lou Corona's yogurt. I make that almond coconut yogurt.
Wow.
Fresh, homemade at home. So it's probably like that. It's so good, right?
Yeah.
It's way better than the dairy yogurts were. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah. And then sometimes it's really more of a boredom thing. But that boredom is actually, it's something uneasy inside of you, because when you're so high on fruit and you're cleaning and you're cleaning and you're cleaning, your body says, the reason you crave a food is because you're vitally adjusted to eating a denser food. And when you start to feel like the diet, oh, this diet isn't good for me, it's because you're addicted to the denser foods. And your body is cleaning itself out. So the body is craving its drug. It's like, here in New York City, we have a lot of methadone clinics because heroin's a really big problem. And they're giving them methadone to wean them off the heroin, but they're never going to get off the methadone because it's still a drug.
That's what they do. Yeah, I think I've heard that.
Right? So eating is actually a drug.
It is.
Because again, we are breatharian in nature.
And it's a big emotional thing now,
It's all emotional.
Yeah.
So at night, if there are nights when I want to cheat, then I will have some nuts. And I muscle test, so there's only 3 nuts that my body can digest well. Brazil nuts, walnuts, and macadamia nuts.
My favorite. Macadamia nuts are so good.
Yeah, they are.
They're worth the money.
But again, Gillian, even when I eat the nuts,
it's not the same as the fruit.
It's not, and I tend to want to continue to keep eating.
Me too.
And then I feel dehydrated because they're dehydrated. They got no water content.
You need a lot more water. Yeah.
But see, that's the thing too. You can't drink water to be hydrated.
And water's not living too.
Right. That's why you get it from the sun. It's H3O2, structured water, electrolyzed water. So when I eat nuts, I feel like I'm dehydrated.
Wow.
But eventually I'll be able to move to like Bali or Hawaii and be fruitarian just nonstop. And I'll have fruits at my disposal all the time.
The fruit. Do you know Jeff juices?
No.
He lives there. He's raw. He juices a lot, eats a lot of fruit, and the food looks next level, like the best food I've ever seen. The papayas, all the foods are like, what's your favorite fruit too? I have to ask.
Watermelon.
Watermelon's so good. And somebody said, I always wonder how fruitarians/raw vegans have a life. I mean, eating all this food takes time, and not to mention you have to go peeing and use the bathroom a lot. And then they said, how is this doable with a job or sports activities or long distance traveling? And yeah, so what do you have to say about that?
Interesting. Well, I don't have the experience of knowing that. I work from home.
Me too.
So I have a bathroom at my disposal, and I do pee more often.
Me too. It's worth it though. You feel so good.
I used to pee a lot faster, but now I can eat that half a watermelon and not have to pee for 90 minutes.
Whoa.
Because I'm actually holding on to the water. But I remember in the beginning, it would come out of me like immediately. And that's because I was dehydrated. So the water was just passing through me. And now my body's actually retaining it.
Wow.
And what was the other part
What
of the
about
question?
having a life? Do you feel like, for me, I've met better friends and more genuine relationships and connections. I found my passion, my purpose. But what about you? Do you feel still socially connected and satisfied in that way? Or do you feel like you're missing out sometimes?
I never feel like I'm missing out because I enjoy myself being alone. And I'd rather be with myself than with people who don't or want to comment on what I'm doing. And that goes for my best friends in the world for 35 years. I went to a get together a few months ago, and everybody, it was like 10 of us, and I was the only one eating salad, and everybody else was drinking. I was the only one not drinking. And they don't say anything to me anymore, though. They know better.
Yeah. But especially in New York, it's a lot of like bagels, pizza, like it's that.
And I love all of that stuff.
Yeah, no, I used to too.
And you smell it, you think about it, and you're constantly bombarded with it all day long in New York City. But I'm very disciplined. My wrestling background is discipline. So I just have this amazing, unwavering discipline to be good to myself.
Me too. I'm very disciplined. Like, I wish I could eat all those things and have bagels for breakfast, coffee, go have pizza for lunch, go have this and that for dinner, but I would not feel good. So that's why I do it. You have to be good to feel good, right?
Yeah. I mean, when, a lot of people in the world too, they want to preach to you the gospels or whatever they believe in. And I'm like, but you're not healthy. You can't preach a gospel and not take care of yourself.
Yeah, true. I know. And somebody said, okay, so as a vegan bodybuilder, how do I make the switch from macros to fruit and know that I am getting all the nutrients able to maintain and build muscle?
Yeah, well, number one, he should be on the phytoplankton because you can build muscle on phytoplankton. I mean, I'm pretty muscular. I'm pretty ripped.
Yeah, you are.
I'm not big, but I don't want to be big.
No, yeah. It's the perfect size, I feel like.
But
and you're natty, obviously.
Yeah, of course. I've never taken a performance enhancing drug in my life. Only drugs.
Have you ever considered it or no?
No.
You don't need it.
Yeah, no, I mean, and all my wrestling buddies can attest to it because I've been wrestling my whole life. I look like this. I actually was born like this. I'm a true mesomorph.
Wow.
When I was 5 years old, I looked like this. My mom but everybody would be like, Bryan, flex your muscles.
And can I ask you, like,
Go ahead.
do you still have a relationship with your mom even after the traumas and stuff?
She passed away when I was 26.
Oh, she did? I'm so sorry.
Ago.
Wow, that's young to lose her.
She had breast cancer.
She did?
Yeah. So I didn't get to resolve those traumas, which is why everything happened to me later on. So at 26, I lost her. At 29, I let the demons in. And, unfortunately, I also chose a partner who was just like my mother. That's why the marriage didn't work.
Well, because they say, like, a lot of times we choose what's familiar.
Exactly.
We want to feel what's familiar.
And I've also, even though I don't have a relationship with that person anymore, I feel much compassion towards her and love because I did love her in the moment. Because you're brought together for a reason. It just didn't work out at that moment. And she's the mother of my son. So I have compassion and empathy and love for her, even though we don't have a relationship. But, I can't hold on to that because I was half of the equation, and I was also not in a good emotional place, and I couldn't deal with that because I wasn't emotionally well. So
And it's good you've been working on all of this and all
yeah,
this soul work, spiritual work, letting things go. Because, like, otherwise at 54, you might be pretty bitter, angry, heavy alcoholic. Like, then think where you'd be. Like, where do you think you'd be if you didn't take all this
yeah,
path, right?
of course. I mean, I drank till the age of like 48, from 13 to 48.
Wow.
So I was an alcoholic. You can't say, "Oh, I only drink on the weekends and have 8 drinks." That's an
Hmm.
alcoholic.
Yeah.
So that was me.
Yeah, no, me too. I was a mess. Jeez, embarrassing.
Yeah.
Glad I'm not. I feel, and life is so much better without it. Because when you're in it,
Yes.
I think a lot of times you kind of think like life would suck to be how we are, or to like not have those addictions, not have the
Yes.
alcohol. Like life would suck. You think that's how I used to think. I can imagine not drinking because
Yeah.
I knew someone who was an alcoholic. She had to quit drinking. I remember thinking that would suck. But now,
Yeah.
like, life is so much better. It's so
Yeah.
bad for your gut and
I
your
also
brain.
feel, and you probably do too, I feel a sense of responsibility for my students
Hmm.
because I want to be I want to embody what they were trying to get towards.
Hmm.
So I can't go that route anymore,
Hmm.
and I won't.
Well, this has been such a special, amazing talk. I have so much respect for
Yeah,
you.
it's
I
been
feel like we
great. Oh,
definitely have a
thank you.
lot of things in common, even things we haven't talked about. And I just have really, truly enjoyed this a lot.
Me too. Me
Yeah,
too,
so I want to
Jillian.
say thanks. If there's
Yeah.
anything else you want to share with my amazing viewers, like feel free to do so right now. And I feel like it hasn't been long enough. Like we're short for time, but I'm going to come back to New York soon. And I think we
Awesome.
should do a part two.
Yeah, that'd
Yeah,
be
so
great.
subscribe for that. Maybe we'll come with my camera guy and we'll go around the city or do some different things too. And yeah, anything you want to share and let everybody know where they can find you as well.
Okay. I have a website.
Hmm.
It's called Quantum Fitness because I'm also a personal trainer.
Yeah.
So the quantum is for the breathing, right? And the fitness is for being active. So it's quantumfitness.org. And then my Instagram channel is breath_verse. So breath verse.
Yep.
And that's how people can find me. I do complimentary consultations. I'll speak
Nice.
to anybody
Amazing.
for 30 minutes for free just because I learn.
Hmm.
And the people that come to me are amazing people.
Amazing.
They're all people that are genuinely interested in bettering themselves. And
Hmm.
I have amazing conversations. So I'm very open to that. And I have a monthly platform where I teach people in a group setting that's relatively inexpensive. I used to charge a lot for programs, but I've made it affordable now. So I teach people in a group setting.
And that's better because people can ask questions that you're afraid to ask or you wouldn't think to
Right,
ask, and you go off of each other. I like those settings.
right. And those are the best ways to do it. And
Hmm.
the thing I'd like to leave your listeners with is number one, learn to command breathing through your nose and not your mouth. And don't do any hyperventilation techniques because it's adrenalizing you, it's stimulating you. And try to eat a raw food lifestyle as best you can. And when you feel the need to go off because it's your body telling you that, you know, the detox is too strong right now,
I love that.
you know.
It's great. This has been amazing. I
Thank you,
love you. You're
Gillian.
amazing. You're great.
Thank you so
And
much.
everybody go follow Bryan. He has great Instagram reels. Go follow him all over. I will link everything down below. Check out his website. And I hope you guys enjoyed this. Be sure to subscribe and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Peace and love, everyone.